My father and his brothers own an apartment building typically rented out by lower income and working class families. The complex itself is older, built more for function than style, rather similar to Soviet-era construction. For privacy reasons, I would not like to disclose where we are. There are always problem tenants here and there, such as hoarders or smokers that stink up the rooms. But overall, my family respects their tenants, and they receive the same in kind. My cousins mainly help with the day-to-day, but I find an odd joy in cleaning the apartments after a tenant vacates, so they call me in to assist sometimes for some extra pocket money. A few weeks ago, I received a call for help from my father, who was distressed by the condition of the apartment left by the tenants who left suddenly at night. This is not unusual if a tenant gets behind on rent or gets in trouble with the law. However, in this case, it was a little unusual, as the tenants always paid their rent in cash and on time, and there were only some occasional complaints about odd smells and noises. They were in a part of the building that was slowly being renovated with upgraded pipes and electric. It really is quite an old building, so there were many empty units around them. The tenants only left behind a month's worth of rent and an odd packet of writing folded into plastic wrap. My father handed me the packet of papers and asked me to burn the papers after I read them. The papers were sticky, almost moldy at the edges, and had been hidden in the microwave along with the rent money. After the first day of me trying to clean up the apartment, my father decided to bring in professionals. He also called in a priest and a rabbi, just in case. He is not a religious man. The state of the apartment is just frightening. One of my cousins suggested that I post the contents here. Perhaps someone else has experience with a similar situation. On the outside of the folded papers, there was a note to my father, of sorts. Everything around us will rot. I am so tired. Forgive us. There is a world outside my window, the only window not boarded up, and it is all that I can see. An older woman with a punishingly tight bun walks her two small dogs. They look up at our window sometimes, and their hackles go up. They must growl a little, because the woman scolds them, and I replace the window cover and step away from the window. A park across the street always has a stream of children, playing, shouting, laughing, crying. I do not watch when they are there. I step away from the window. I do not think looking at them will transfer any corruption really, but just in case, I do not pay attention to them. Children should always be carefree until the burdens of the world harden their hearts and cloud their minds. A window cover is not necessary anymore because the windows are so dirty, but old habits die hard, and I always try to find a fresh piece of cardboard every few days. I have to clear soot and blackish mold and some vile, unknown sludge from the window every few days if I want to look outside. Each time I must untangle a mess of red ribbons and replace them in a chaotic manner to confuse her. The walls are rotting. I can hear her in the closet, in the back of the farthest room, scratching to get out. She whispers evil in words I cannot understand, but they make me afraid and make me want to set fire to the tenement to burn the evil out. But I do not. A fire would not help anyways. I do not want to see her eyes, large and white, too white, with little black pinholes that bore into you and make your feet heavy and the air hard to breathe. Those eyes grow larger the longer you look at her, until they overtake you and drive you to madness. We cannot leave her, and she cannot leave us. It is our duty, my mother said often, trying to hide tears in her eyes, but I could still see them threaten to stream down her hollow cheeks. "They can be free out there," she says, "if she isn't here with us. They never know our duty, and that is our burden. I want to be free like them too, but I know this cannot be. I am too old to be a carefree child on the playground, but I would like to sit in the park outside and wave at people and eat ice cream and laugh at the squirrels chitter at one another. I would like to ride a train and make love for the first time, and stand on the top of a cliff to shout over the edge to listen for an echo. I do not get to leave the apartment often, and only quickly on errands. I am not supposed to talk to anyone unless necessary, and we are not to draw attention to ourselves. My mother works a lot, and one of us must always stay cooped up here because of her. I work a few times a month at the library for a few hours, restocking books. Those are my favorite days, because I can come early and read a real book with paper pages that make a shushing sound when you flip back and forth. The ink smells old and good, or sometimes fresh and good. A knock at the door draws me away from my thoughts. It is our secret knock. I am often sitting and thinking, because there is not much to do, and it is hard to concentrate on much. I must open the door quickly. The few neighbors that remain like to try and catch glimpses of us, and my mother does not like that. We will be gone before long anyways. We cannot stay in one place for too long. Everything rots anyways. The chains take so long to unlock. So many chains and so many locks. And red ribbon tied around like madness. The chain ones are newer. They will not rust for some weeks, hopefully. The locks make a clear click sound instead of a scraping whine, which I like. Clean locks and clean chains. The barricade in front of the door is heavy, but my arms are strong. I must move the barricade every day when my mother leaves and my mother returns. Before I turn the doorknob, I wait, just to make sure. She is still cursing me from the closet. She is still secure. It is safe, and I open the door. My mother comes in, wheeling groceries in her wobbly plastic cart. Enough food for weeks, this time, and meat too. Even a bottle of wine. Not very good, but we do not mind. Canned, most of the food is, but we can prepare a few fresh items for supper, and it will be wonderful. The apartment will smell like food and spices instead of dust and mold and rot. It was lucky. Mother got extra work in the summer months, cleaning houses. So much work that she would come home exhausted. We would complete the nightly ritual and she would collapse. She is getting too thin, and I hope we can save enough money so that she can work a little less. I do not like being alone all the time. Alone with her. "The wall is rotting," I say. My mother sighs. It is expensive and dangerous to keep replacing wood. If the landlord saw how much we replaced with metal, we would be tossed out immediately, just as before. Luckily, the floors here are concrete underneath, but the carpet rotted away long ago. When we move, it will be in the cover of night after a week-long preparation ritual in order to secure her for travel. "We need to get concrete bricks," I say. "No more rot to pull down, and it will be stronger. The wood is growing weak, and we are running out of red ribbon. Bricks will be risky, and we will need to bring them up one at a time. Maybe we can move before this is necessary." "Perhaps," my mother says. "I hope this is the last place before the final place. We have almost enough to build. Perhaps a few more months. We have a plot of land, left by grandmother, the product of scrimping and saving for decades. But there is nothing on the land yet, and we must build structures to live, and structures to contain her. Someday soon. It will be easier with our own land. No more endless rituals every single night and hiding over the cover of night, abandoning rooms full of rot and mold and the stench of horrible things. One building we left had to be condemned. We feel sorry and sometimes leave paltry amounts of cash on our way out, but it will never repair the damage we leave. It is not our fault, we tell our guilty bellies when they churn and worry. It is her. Together we replace the locks and chains and barricade the door. Mother sits down heavily, all skin and bones and exhaustion, and begins to sort the cans, but abandons the task, lost in thought like I do sometimes. She was beautiful once, and still is sometimes in certain light or after a good meal. She tries to keep cheery for me, but I see her face when she does not know I am looking. She is afraid. I am too. If we fail, it will be the ruin of many, and the first of our line to fail in so long we cannot remember. My mother extracts a fresh pack of red ribbon from her tired purse and hands it to me. As I replace the old, rotting ribbon, she begins to prepare the fresh food. We must eat it quickly, and do not get to eat fresh much, so this is not a hard task. The front room fills with delicious aroma of vegetables and meat. It is heaven. My mouth waters and stomach grumbles in anticipation. When we sit down to eat, my mother whispers a blessing over the food and sprinkles holy water on the food. Just a dash, just enough, just in case. It tastes divine, meat and spices and fresh food. We can hardly hear the scratching. Mother looks at me in between bites with soft eyes. Whatever she is about to say, I do not want to hear it. You are young and pretty, she says. You must go out, have a fun night, forget your life for an evening, dance, drink, meet a boy. She strokes my cheek. She knows I have no acquaintances to go out with. It would be awkward and I would be uncomfortable. We need another daughter. Your poor mother is getting too old. Men will laugh at me if I try to flirt, and it is getting dangerous for me to bear children. I should have borne another daughter, but it was too hard. My own mother died too young. I was alone. You are young and pretty. You will be endearing. I am young, but I do not think I am pretty. I am pale and tired. When I catch a glimpse of myself in a reflection or mirror, I sometimes wonder who that ill-looking young lady is, until I realize it is me. I do not want to meet a boy. I do not want to go out. Half truth, half lie. Supper is delicious, though, and nearly gone. The scratching turns to banging now. The wailing begins. I hate the wailing. My mother wants to say more, but instead she leans down and takes out a parcel, heavily wrapped in black plastic. A cat, maybe. Perhaps a small dog that did not successfully outrun an oncoming car. Hopefully not a possum or skunk. Those smell the worst, and the scent lingers in our rooms all night and makes me gag. She takes the parcel and walks down the hallway, dodging the fresh red ribbon I have strung along the ceiling and walls. The wooden door to her never had a chance to rot away. We replaced it almost immediately with a heavy steel door. We had to hire unscrupulous-looking thugs who asked for far too much money, but we could not protest. It had to be done. They did not ask questions, and we did not offer answers. Mother says the words, and the door creaks open. My lungs burn and I remember to exhale. I tend to hold my breath and listen anxiously when my mother must go back. It hasn't happened often for her to escape, but it fills me with dread every time, just in case. A scream begins, a high-pitched, unearthly scream that raises the hair on the back of my neck and makes my bowels churn in anxiety. but my mother must have unwrapped the parcel. The scream halts quickly, and there is only quiet smacking and crunching. I am often spared this task, but I have learned the art of serving her because my mother will not always be around. I do not like to think of this, but it is an uncomfortable truth to accept. I finish supper and clear the plates, and decide to put the cans away. Labels out, veggies here, soups there. I mark the top with permanent marker so we know the contents of each can when the labels rot off. Water chestnuts and asparagus hide in the back for when we are desperate. They are cheap and easy to find at discount stores, but they make a sad meal. I hope next time we can get a jar of peanut butter, a fine treat to have. Instead, I open the bottle of wine. I am not quite of age in the outside world, but in here, that does not matter. It smells a little sour and vinegary, but maybe it will drown out the smell of rotted meat and blood and marrow if I stick my nose in it for a moment. From the back room, my mother makes some soothing sounds, contrasting the animalistic grunts and smacking sounds. I am worried for her, knowing she will be okay, but I still worry. I never make soothing sounds. I cannot bring myself to in her presence. Everything rots because of her. I suppose the soothing helps a little, although for who I cannot say. Perhaps when I have a daughter of my own, who hides in the front room afraid of her, I too will make soothing sounds for myself and my daughter. But first I must have a daughter. Only a few times my mother has emerged from her closet with bloody scratches and jagged teeth marks, bruises and cuts. One time a broken finger. It still is a little crooked, and I do not think we set it properly. "You should see the other guy," she would joke when emerging from these scraps, chuckling but in a nervous sort of way. I never laugh at these incidents, just silently embrace her. She would ruffle my hair, then go to sleep for hours. It is hard to occupy myself when she sleeps, for I sleep very little, and am usually lonely during the day when my mother is gone. I do not need much sleep, and I cannot sleep anyways. Mostly I think and make up stories, or look out the window. Our apartment in the tenement is bare. Paper rots quickly, but plastic lasts for a very long time. We have noisy blow-up mattresses in our room that sometimes leak air, and we wake up feeling like the earth has tried to suck us up. No sheets or soft blankets, no pillows except for plastic blow-up kinds that are so uncomfortable that I just do not use a pillow unless I am sick. We have never had the good kind, the real kind, and I can't miss them anyways. We have quilts made of patches of cheap synthetic fabric that is noisy and scratchy and sewed together with a squeaky sort of thread that is not organic material, but it does not seem to rot quickly, if at all. Anything that does not rot is coveted by my mother and I. With the expenses of replacing things constantly, we have little money left over for amusement. We sometimes get free clothing from local charities, but we do not like to do this often. This is our burden. We have few books. Once, Mother bought me a plastic binder with laminated pages of fairy tale stories and folklore tales. It is my most prized object, and I read it nearly every day unless my eyes are sore from straining in the dark apartment. It cost her a small fortune, and she is always looking for little games and things to amuse me, although they are hard to come by. I am very good at checkers and getting better at chess, although I can only usually play myself. My mother is too tired. She works a lot, works hard, and the rituals drain her more, for she puts in the most effort. I must do better and practice more, but one time I botched the ritual and the screaming wouldn't stop. Neighbors banged on the door, and I cried in terror until I remembered an emergency parcel in the freezer. an unidentifiable dead thing found by the side of the road, frozen and stale. It maybe would not be delicious to her, but it would keep her quiet at least, and it did. We have no photos, no posters, no maps. We must move often and keep our belongings sparse or easily left behind. I learned to read and write from a chalkboard, although we were able to use a whiteboard and markers for a spell, until the markers grew moldy. I am not a good reader or writer, but I can make do enough in the world. The soothing sounds stop from the back room. My mother summons me back for the nightly ritual, which we complete without incident. I try my best and push all my strength forward, say the words with all my might, and banish her evil for another day. When we finish, my mother extinguishes the candles, and I collect the rat carcasses for disposal. They are the worst part of the ritual, and hard to come by after long. She smiles and squeezes my shoulder as we lock up her door behind us. You did very well today, my darling. Very well. I swell with pride and help Mother to bed. She is frail and weak, but has a little more energy than usual, and even asks me to read her stories from my storybook before she falls asleep. I make it through 2.5 tales read by our lantern, and she is fast asleep. I tiptoe out and close the door. The scratching will stop for the night, and I might have peace for a while. I could sneak outside, but the door would be vulnerable without Mother to lock up behind me. I do not often sneak outside, but sometimes feel suffocated and try to get some air for a few hours. I do not wander far, for the world outside is dangerous, but not as dangerous as our apartment. Mother is right. I do need to go out and meet a boy. I am of age where I need to have a daughter of my own, while Mother is alive to help. Mother had to raise me without her own mother's help, an infant and her, and she says those were the dark days indeed, and she will speak no further of them when asked. A boy would be put up for adoption, or something else that I do not quite understand, but my mother says we will cross that bridge when we get there, whatever that means. We do not live near a bridge, but I will understand when the time comes, I suppose is what she is saying. We cannot have boys with her around. Only us women cannot be corrupted by her. We do not know why. It is just the way it has always been from the old country and always will be in the new country. It is just the way it has always been. I sit and ponder for a spell in the darkness of the front room, and then vow to tell my mother that I would like to find a suitable mate. Perhaps when she has a day off from work. I will need to find a dress and shoes and makeup and hide them in the alleyway outside. Or perhaps my mother can get a membership at the local gym, and we can even have a locker to store a few things and take hot showers and feel clean for a while. Our bloodline must continue. It cannot die with me, and I cannot be the cause to unleash her. It is not our way to get attached to mates. It is too messy, and they do not understand our burden. We keep them safe, all of them outside my window and beyond, from her. The rot. The madness brought on by her 2 white eyes, 2 wide smile that is not a smile. She may have shared our family name long, long ago, but she is no longer of this earth. Her flesh is white and cracked and hard as stone. I peek out my window once more. It is dark outside, with a full moon illuminating the world in a beautiful soft glow. I like the nighttime. It is quiet and dark outside, like it is inside. And if I press my face to the glass when it has been cleaned, then I can pretend I am outside, free of any burdens, free from her. I know they do not realize the burden that my mother and I have to keep them safe, the outsiders we rarely see or speak to. They must see our tired, gaunt faces and think we are ill or addicts or other undesirables. They give us a wide berth on sidewalks and do not meet our eyes, but we are just malnourished from not eating good food and not having much sunlight or happiness or good things to surround ourselves with. We are tired from the rituals that drain us to keep her at bay, from the constant scratching and curses and mutterings of evil. My mother and I are the keepers of evil, the protectors of humanity, or so we like to say when the scratching is loud and will not stop. It is a sad, lonely life, but it is ours to bear. We are not the only keepers either, but one of many families. We harbor the demons from our bloodlines that wish to rot and corrupt and feed endlessly. But if you, dear reader, if you are even out there, ever come across an isolated plot of land with rotted trees and plants and concrete dwellings that smell like decay and old blood, run away and do not look back. Forget what you have seen. It is only us protecting you from them.